Dynasty fantasy football is one of the most addicting things on this planet. If you are in a dynasty league already and you already have some players on that team, depending on if you're a rebuild contender, I don't care. These are 5 guys that you should be looking to move on from this season, in the off season and before and after, man. It's time to get some value before it's too late. We got 5 names to start with. Join the Discord. We have a top 450 draft guide already out. We'll have dynasty rankings as soon as we get some more likes, subscribes on the channel. We already have 450 person ranking for PPR out there. Name number 1 is going to be Brock Purdy. Now I know what you're thinking. Are you dumb? Brock Purdy is 25. He just had a 5-year contract. His supporting cast: Pearsall, Ayuk, Kittle. Kittle just got the contract. McCaffrey. Yes. Now looking at Brock Purdy's career averages. In 2022, 11.8 points per game in PPR. In 2023, 18.48 PPR points per game. Pretty decent. 2024, 17.79 PPR points per game. Okay. So, I mean, most of his stats actually aren't that bad, except for one thing. There's no rushing upside. In 2023 and 2022, he basically didn't rush at all. And in 2024, in his 15 games, he averaged 21 rushing yards. But that's kind of skewed, right? So, anybody that has a bigger chance at getting rushing yards than Brock Purdy, they can be considered a league winner. Whereas Brock Purdy, I feel like you're just going for a safe option. So if you're super flex, if you're not super flex, Brock Purdy, I can't really foresee being a league winner consistently. There might be one great year where maybe McCaffrey has a bunch of red zone work. Maybe McCaffrey, we get a full season of McCaffrey. Brock Purdy, check down king, and he gets some more, touchdown positive regression in that aspect. Let's just say this. Justin Fields in 2022 had 20 PPR points per game and 17.7 in 2023. So Justin Fields was outscoring Brock Purdy because of his rushing upside, where he had 76 rushing yards a game and 50 rushing yards a game in those 2 respective seasons. So if we think about it deeply, right? Brock Purdy, yes, you're basically set. You're set for the next 10 years, at least the next 5 years. You're going to have a starting QB on that 49er system with a good supporting cast. But it's just a safe bet. It's a safe bet, and the safe bet is sometimes good, but also, depending on your team construction in your Dynasty League, the safe bet, I mean, you're limiting your upside, I feel like. So Brock Purdy's value is quite high right now. And if we look at, there are resources out there where the month of May, quarterback prices are the highest they're going to be. And actually, as we get closer and closer to the season and the months progress, the quarterback prices actually start decreasing in Dynasty. I don't know why, it's some weird phenomenon, but Brock Purdy is at his highest price right now that he probably will be. And what would I be looking to tier up with? I'd be looking to get rid of Brock Purdy, and I would be looking, if you can get an early 2026 first round pick, which I know it's hard to project that out, right? Like a 2026 early first round pick, I think that's pretty solid. And if it's not going to be an early first round pick, you're trading with a team that you think they're going to be decent, they're middler, or they're going to be a contender, look to get something else on top of that first round pick. Or you can look to tier down, like looking at the tier of quarterbacks and the guys that are around Brock Purdy. I mean, J.J. McCarthy is QB 20 ranked. We got Penix at number 19 ranked, whereas Brock Purdy is up at 14. So if you can look to package Brock Purdy and maybe something else and tier down to a guy like Penix, tier down to a guy like McCarthy, and then somehow package something else in on top of that, maybe a second round pick, etc., etc. I think it might be smart to kind of chase the upside. Like McCarthy and Penix with a more rushing upside, we don't know if they're going to be good passers. We don't even know anything about if they're going to be long-term starters in the league. So you're kind of sacrificing some of the security, but you're chasing the upside and still trying to get that value in return. So Brock Purdy's name 1. George Pickens. George Pickens is name number 2. George Pickens, his value is the highest it's been for the one fact that he's now, George Pickens finally has a quarterback. George Pickens is going to the Cowboys. Hooray, hooray. Bro, George Pickens averages 2.2 yards per route run. George Pickens averages 12 PPR points per game in the last 2 seasons. That's not great. George Pickens will forever be a wide receiver 2 as long as CeeDee Lamb is healthy. So George Pickens should be getting faded, I think. In Pittsburgh, at least he had a chance at the wide receiver 1 before Metcalf came there. Now Metcalf was there, so it would have been wide receiver 2 anyway. But Pickens, yes. Pickens has the age on his side. Yes, Pickens is 24. Yes, Pickens could come out and he could have a wide receiver 2 season. But do we think that Pickens is randomly going to be a wide receiver 1 now? I don't know. He also has never played above 90% of the snaps. Last year he was 81. The year before that was 88. First year was 77. He's also like there's off-field issues as well. So I'd be looking to trade Pickens and see what I can get in terms of value. So if we go over to keep, trade, cut, which is a tool that you shouldn't be using as a tool, but you should be using it as a weapon. George Pickens, you could potentially get a mid or a late 2026 first round pick for George Pickens. And if we're looking at that, right, think about this. You could potentially get a wide receiver 1. Like, you could also just straight up trade Pickens for Matthew Goldman. You could trade Pickens for Trey Harris. You could trade Pickens maybe for some of the, established wide receiver 1s that are going into year 2. I would be looking to move off of this wide receiver 2 and get somebody that has the upside or is a wide receiver 1. Next name, Terry McLaurin. Terry McLaurin, I have nothing against. I think McLaurin is poised for another great season. He had his career high, no surprise, 15.75 PPR points per game in 2024 with Jaden Daniels. Now, McLaurin is getting up there in age, and I think he still is going to have a couple years left in the tank before we see a huge drop-off. So if you're trading McLaurin because you think he's going to, somehow hit a cliff and fall off of it, I don't think that's happening for a couple. I don't think that's going to happen for a few more years. Now, with that said, I think that he will hit a cliff eventually, and I think that an old, aging wide receiver, they add Deebo Samuel, McLaurin's value is the highest it's ever going to be. I think that we're going to slowly see his value decrease over time. So what do I think we can get from McLaurin? Again, I would look to trade him for it's very simple. I'd be tiering up in age, going for a couple younger guys, maybe turn Terry McLaurin into Keon Coleman and Rome Odunze. Now, I don't love that because I actually don't like either of those players and their situations. I like Coleman more than Odunze, but I hate Odunze. He's going to be on the video. I think he was on the video already of the 5 guys not to target. But you guys get the concept, right? So tier up for some age, more upside players, guys that will help your team out in the longer term. Move on from McLaurin while you still can before it's too late. 2 more names. We got Zay Flowers. Zay Flowers, he's had a solid first 2 years, averaging about 12.5 PPR points per game. In 2024, his snap percent was down to 76%, and the problem is he only averages about 0.2 touchdowns a game, so once every 5 games he scores a touchdown. His target share is already pretty decent at 25% in 2024. I think we'll probably still see a similar target share. The Ravens are a run-first offense, even with Lamar Jackson passing the ball quite a bit more in 2024, and he should have been MVP, first off. So if Lamar Jackson falls off, like Zay Flowers is going to also have a worse year. And considering Lamar Jackson should have been MVP, Zay Flowers still only had 12.3 fantasy PPR points per game. So the upside of Zay Flowers just isn't there for me. Go ahead and move off on Zay Flowers. I mean, he's a flex play. Like Zay Flowers is a flex play, wide receiver 2 at best. So if you can tier up to somebody that has the potential to be higher, I'd look to do so. Final name is going to be Derrick Henry. This seems like a no-brainer. Now, if you're a contender, if you're a contending team and you can handle the fact that Derrick Henry within the next year or 2 will be completely fantasy irrelevant, go ahead and use Derrick Henry to win your league this year because he did just have 19.79 fantasy PPR points per game. He did have a 58% snap share, which is kind of in line with his last season in Tennessee as well. The Ravens haven't done anything really to improve their running back position, so I think that Derrick Henry could be a good, contender addition. So people might actually trade for him. What can you get for Derrick Henry? Well, looking at where Derrick Henry is ranked, if I look up the rankings, Derrick Henry is, start scrolling. Now, he's actually not that low. Derrick Henry is RB20 in the overall Dynasty rankings, and he's ahead of guys like Chuba Hubbard, Bashal Tuden, Cam Scatabo, DeAndre Swift, Charbonnet, Trey Benson is 31. Tyrone Tracy, I don't really like that, but Jadon Blue at 36. Again, I'd be looking to move Derrick Henry probably for a draft pick because usually what we see is that in the end of round 1 in Dynasty rookie drafts, there's going to be that's where the running backs are going to be sitting. You can see that this year with R.J. Harvey, Caleb Johnson, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that I would look to move him for draft capital, or if there's any prospects you like that I already named, like Jadon Blue, maybe you're big on him, maybe you're big on Scatabo or Tuden, look to move him for any of those guys before the value is no longer there or obtainable. Those are 5 guys to move on from Dynasty. Let me know any thoughts down in the comments. Smash like and subscribe button. Thanks for watching. Peace.